Allahu Akbar. 11 weeks so far, and we are still studying the name of Allah, Dhul-Jalali Wal Ikraam. And we still got a couple, I think 2 weeks left. This week we are going to be going over how to live by the names of Allah, Al-Akram, Al-Kareem, and the Karam side of the name Dhul Jalali Wal Ikraam. And so far we have been over quite a few topics. Just a very, very quick recap. The first thing we went over was Makarimul Akhlaq, having noble and dignified behavior and morals. Also, how to have the correct relationship with the Quran al-Kareem, using all of our faculties, our hearing, our sight, our hearts, in trying to understand and implement the Quran in our lives. We also went over the concept of how to have ikhlas through this name of Allah, Dhul Jalali Wal Ikraam. And last week we went over the importance of gratitude. Allah, He defines who the truly honored slaves are. And also looking after orphans, generosity, giving in sadaqah, and some lessons from the sunnah that we went over last week. And so this week we'll cover the following points, inshallah. The first of them is taqwa. The second is honoring our parents. The third is sajdah and dua. And then the mention of the attribute of karam in the ahadith. Subhanallah, before we start that, we recited from Surah Shura today. Allah, He says, فَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَمَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. That every single thing that you have been given in this life, it is only an enjoyment for this worldly life. But whatever is with Allah, وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. What is with Allah is far better and everlasting. لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. For a specific type of people, Allah, He defines them with two qualities. So لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. Those who have iman and tawakkul. And iman and tawakkul, they are one of the same. That you cannot have tawakkul if you don't have iman. And the stronger your iman is, the stronger your tawakkul is. And it's usually linked together. They say iman is sort of the actions of the heart, that you have faith and you have belief in Allah, and tawakkul is within your actions, is that whenever you do any action, you already know that you have no power. Take it one simple example. You came to the masjid this morning, we walked to the masjid this morning, but we have to walk with tawakkul, because you and I, we know that you cannot walk unless Allah enables you to walk. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And so then we leave our homes, and the first thing we say is Bismillah, Tawakkaltu ala Allah, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So you leave home in the name of Allah, you're placing your trust in Allah, and you're declaring that all power is with Allah alone. And then the angels, they respond to you saying, you have been guided, you have been defended, you have been guarded. And the shayateen say, what can we do to a person who's been guided, who's been guarded, and who's been defended? Leave him alone. There's nothing you can do. And then you come to the masjid. You're having tawakkul again, that you'll get here on time, that you will not go through any difficulty. Tawakkul is in every single action that we do in our lives. May Allah grant us solely good understanding and perfect our iman and our tawakkul. So on the topic of taqwa, Allah, He says, يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. That, O mankind, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakari wa untha. Indeed, we have created you, of male and female. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا. And we made you nations or tribes. Shu'uban is nations and tribes. وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. So that you may know one another. So that you may get to know one another. And also for the purpose of lineage. So that people down the line, they don't end up getting married to perhaps somebody who would have the same blood as them, who is actually the non-mahram. There's many, many reasons as to why Allah made us in separate tribes. But it was not so that we may be arrogant with one another. So that we may be nationalistic in our behavior. Oh, I'm from India, I'm from Pakistan, and you're from the other side of the river, so I'm better than you. Don't talk to me, don't mix with my family. And that's not why Allah created it in different tribes. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Inna akramakum. We've been over the superlative form, akram, the most honorable. And if you look at the different semantics of the name, the most beautiful in the sight of Allah from amongst you, the most valuable of you in the sight of Allah, the most treasured from you in the sight of Allah, the one who is closest to Allah, the best of you in the sight of Allah is the one that has atqa, the most amount of taqwa. So it's not just that we all may have taqwa, so we're all beloved. No, the one who has the most amount of taqwa is the most beloved to Allah. May Allah grant us all a good understanding. Inna Allaha alimun khabir. And indeed Allah is the all-knowing, the all-aware. That Allah, He knows what's in the hearts. Innahu alimun bidhati sudur. He knows your heart, He knows everything about you better than you know yourself. Allah, He says, فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اتَّقَى. That don't claim to be pure, don't claim to have taqwa. Only Allah knows who truly has taqwa of Him. May Allah grant us all a good understanding. Likewise, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, it's been narrated by Ibn Umar radiallahu anh, that he gave a khutbah to the people on Fathul Makkah, on the day of the conquest of Makkah, and he said, "O you people, verily Allah has removed the slogans of Jahiliyyah from you." An example, today the slogans of Jahiliyyah is every single type of slogan, greetings and all these other words and slang that we have, that the people use today. Actually, Allah, He removed it from the people. He removed it at that time, and its reverence and its forefathers. So now there are only two types of people. You have one who is righteous, the one who has taqwa, and he is honorable with Allah. And then you have the fajir, wahayyin. The other side, you have the wicked, humiliated person. He is humiliated in the sight of Allah. So the first one is taqiyyun kareemun. He has taqwa, taqiyyun, and kareemun. He is honorable in the sight of Allah. That's just the only two groups you find in this life. And on the other hand, there is shaqiyyun, wretched, and fajirun. He is, wicked, and he is hayyin, humiliated in the sight of Allah. These are the two types of people Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us about. We get to choose which one we want to be from. May Allah grant us all a good understanding. May Allah grant us all taqwa. And so He said, people are children of Adam, and Allah created Adam from dust. Allah said, "O you people," and then we recited the ayah already, so we don't have to go over it again. But that's something for us to ponder over. That before we start looking down on other people, realize what we are created from. Dust, dirt. How could we look down on others when you yourself, I myself, we are dirt? Allah, He gives us an example. He mentioned this in Surah Tawbah, and Surah Tawbah, subhanAllah, is known to be perhaps one of the harshest surahs in the Quran. That those who do something called yalmizun, criticism, negative criticism. So when the people were preparing for jihad, and they were going to give the funds to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the Sahaba, or a person who had a lot of wealth, he came and gave a lot. And then the hypocrites, they were looking, and they were like, "Look at this man." They started criticizing. And subhanAllah, this is a disease in all our hearts sometimes, because we always try to pick faults in others. And look at this man, showing off with his wealth, coming and giving large amounts. He just wants to be known as wealthy. And then after him, a person came, and the only thing he was able to give was a couple of dates maybe. Only his effort. He worked the entire day, yet he had that ikhlas deep inside him, that he wanted to help. He wanted to be of service to Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he came with those few dates, put in the hands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What did the hypocrites say? "What is this? Look at this man. What are we going to do with a couple of dates?" And so this is how the people ridicule. Again, today's day and age. And we have people, let's give the example of Palestine. There are some people, they come and they say, "Oh, why did they go and start this whole situation? Why did they go into Israel and do all these things, and they brought a lot of destruction upon their own people?" You don't know what was going on. You don't know what's in their hearts. You don't know the suffering that they were going through. But there are many people who do this. I've actually come across videos of ulama, imams, saying that, the Palestinians, they brought this on themselves. Look at their sins. Half of them, they don't have beards, the women don't wear hijab, so it's clearly Allah is punishing them because of this. I'm pretty sure we've come across this. For those of us, we see all this pain, so we go online, we're trying to search for something that may give us some hope, and then we come across this. What does Allah say? Regarding any person who said, "La ilaha illallah, وَالَّذِينَ هَاجَرُوا وَأُخْرِجُوا مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ وَأُوذُوا فِي سَبِيلِي وَقَاتَلُوا وَقُتِلُوا لَأُكَفِّرَنَّ عَنْهُمْ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ. So whatever sin they may have had, Allah will forgive them for it anyways. وَلَأُدْخِلَنَّهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ, and they will be in Jannah. But as for those of the people out there who gave these criticisms, these negative, non-beneficial remarks, what does Allah say regarding these people? He says to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, "Istaghfir lahum, aw la tastaghfir lahum. Istaghfir lahum 70 marra." That seek istighfar for them if you wish, or don't. Or ask Allah to forgive them 70 times. This is the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his du'as are accepted. The du'as of a Prophet of Allah is never rejected. Allah over here is saying, you ask for forgiveness for these people 70 times, لَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَهُمْ. Allah will never ever forgive them. Lan is a specific term used that never ever in the future also. So there's lam. For example, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا وَلَن تَفْعَلُوا. That you cannot, you will never be able to, meaning create a surah. This is in Surah Baqarah. Allah is saying that never ever in the future you'd be able to create a surah, like that you find in the Quran. Likewise, Allah would never ever forgive these people for negative remarks. And so that's why we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful over how we see the people. Do we have treachery behind our sight, behind our eyes? Now we're smiling at one another, but in our heart we just have filth in there. Sometimes we'll just say salam to the person, but it's only from our tongues, it's not from the heart. If that's the case, then there's a serious disease. This is the threat of Allah. Allah is saying, لَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَهُمْ. Allah will never forgive these people. Never. These are only specific conditions for a very specific group of people, the munafiqeen. May Allah protect us all from this. And so we look at our own origins. We were created from dust. Therefore, we should never ever look down on other people. May Allah protect us all from arrogance. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he used to recite Surah Shams, when he used to come across the ayat, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا, that فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Allah, He has instilled or inspired in every human the ability to do wicked deeds and the ability to have taqwa. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. The one who purifies his soul, his heart, the one who attains taqwa, he is successful. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. And the one who corrupts it with sin, then he is unsuccessful. At this point, he would make a dua. And it's a powerful dua we should all learn. Allahumma ati nafsi taqwaha wa zakkiha anta khayru man zakkaha anta waliyuha wa mawlaha. It means, Allahumma ati nafsi, oh Allah, give my soul taqwaha. It's taqwa, its sense of piousness, its sense of consciousness of you. Wa zakkiha, and purify it. Anta khayru man zakkaha. You are the best to purify my soul. Anta waliyuha wa mawlaha. You are its wali and its mawla. Mawla and wali, it has similar meanings. You are its protector and its guardian. Subhanallah. May Allah grant us all taqwa. May Allah protect us all once again from any of the filth that enters the heart. Likewise, Allah, He says, إِن تَجْتَنِبُوا كَبَائِرَ مَا تُنْهَوْنَ عَنْهُ نُكَفِّرْ عَنْكُمْ سَيِّئَاتِكُمْ وَنُدْخِلْكُمْ مُدْخَلًا كَرِيمًا. That if you are able to keep away from the major sins, from all of the different major sins, if you are able to stay away from all of the major sins, from that which you have been forbidden, then Allah, He will forgive you. نُكَفِّرْ عَنْكُمْ سَيِّئَاتِكُمْ. Any of the evil deeds that you may have fell into, the lesser deeds of the minor sins, Allah, He'll forgive those for you anyways. And وَنُدْخِلْكُمْ مُدْخَلًا كَرِيمًا. He will admit you into an honorable admittance, which is Jannatul Firdaus. May Allah grant us all Jannatul Firdaus. And this is taqwa. Again, this comes down to taqwa. That for those who have taqwa, we stay away, number one, from the major sins. It begins with the major sins. Once you are doing your best, you're staying away from the major sins, you've cut off every major sin from your life, now you can start focusing on the minor sins. Or, on certain habits that we need to start cutting down and removing from our lives. But it begins with the major sins. And this is such a hopeful and powerful ayah. Allah is saying, look, you tried your best to stay away from the major sins. So because you are a human being and you're weak anyways, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا, you're going to end up falling into the little sins, well, we'll forgive you for that. Allahu Akbar. May Allah grant us all His maghfirah. Moving on to the next point, which is regarding our parents. And subhanallah, this is such a heavy subject. Allah, He says in Surah Isra, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِندَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا فَلَا تَقُل لَّهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا وَقُل لَّهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. That your Lord, He decreed that you worship none other than Him. You worship Allah alone, and the only ever thing that He puts alongside Tawheed is being good to your parents. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. To be good to your parents. إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ. If they reach old age, either one of them or both of them, فَلَا تَقُل لَّهُمَا أُفٍّ. Don't even say uff as an expression towards them. The deeper meaning is that do not repel them. Do not even show any sort of resentment or disgust in your face or annoyance. They're telling you do this, do that. Don't even say uff towards it. Do not even feel anything against them, especially when they reach old age. وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. Do not repel them. Do not turn your backs on them. Don't turn away from them. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. And say to them or speak to them with noble words, with generous words. Again, with words that they would appreciate. They have reached old age now. They have not long left. But they still have feelings, right? And they looked after you when you were young. So treat them in a way that they would appreciate, that they would continue making dua for you. Subhanallah. In today's day and age, many of the parents, they are not making dua for their children, they are making dua against their children. Now Rasulullah SAW, he told us, don't do this. Don't make dua against your children, because it's only going to ever come back to you. Even if your children, they are causing you the most amount of stress, don't make dua against them. Rather just make dua, ask Allah to guide them, to grant them taqwa, and to purify them with the sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But there's many examples. Take for example the severe ones. You have a child, he grows up. When he grows up, he joins the wrong company, he joins the gangs, and he starts taking drugs. Or perhaps you find out that he himself is selling drugs, and he's spreading all this corruption. Sometimes, there are certain children, they cause so much of harm in society. What do you think the parents will do? I've actually come across stories where there'll be parents, they stand up in salah the entire night crying to Allah, saying, Ya Rabb, destroy my child for all the sins and corruption that he has spread in society, for selling those drugs and all of these things that they did. And be very careful. Children, on the other hand, what does Allah say regarding them? وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. Doesn't just come down to the tongue. It also comes down to your actions, because it begins with your tongue, but it's everything else. And so if your words towards them has to be good, what about your actions towards them? May Allah grant us all a good understanding. Allah, He continues to say regarding them, وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. That lower the wing of humility towards them. This is even more now. It's even more than just not repelling them. It's even more than just using good words with them or noble words with them. Now Allah is saying, lower your wings of humility, meaning lower yourself for them. Meaning, if they have anything that they need from you, don't just get it done, but show a sense of willingness that, sometimes we are so busy with our lives. But we need to put that aside. Go to our parents first. And before they tell us, look, you need to do this and you need to do that, we should be saying, Mom, Dad, is there anything that I may do to serve you? Is there anything that I may do to serve you? Allahu Akbar. And also make dua for them. Say, رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. Oh Allah, have mercy on them like how they had mercy on me as they brought me up. They were tolerant with all of the things that I did. They always had mercy upon me, so oh Allah, have mercy upon them. And subhanallah, birrul walidain, dutifulness to the parents, it is directly connected to karam, noble behavior, makarim al-akhlaq. You want to know how to live by the name Dhul Jalali Wal Ikraam? It's related both to jalala and karam. That Allah, the only one you humble yourself before is Allah. You humble yourself to the majesty of Allah. And He is telling you to lower your wings of humility to your parents. So out of humility towards Allah, you're going to do that with your parents. And likewise, to treat them in a beautiful way. Birrul walidain. Bir is connected to karam. Bir, dutifulness, to have righteous behavior. The abrar, they are also those who are noble in the sight of Allah. And there are many specific ahadith regarding also the acceptance of your du'as. That birrul walidain, dutifulness to your parents, it is directly connected to the acceptance of your du'as and the acceptance of your ibadah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said regarding those who are defined as al-aaq, those who do uququl walidain, they are abusive, disrespectful towards their parents. Their du'as, their ibadah doesn't go past their ears. Their du'as doesn't go past their ears. Imagine you're in a difficulty and then you're calling out, Ya Rabb, Ya Rabb, save me, Ya Rabb, save me, Ya Rabb. And it's not going past your ears because you did not do what Allah commanded you to do with your parents. It's such a huge, huge thing. Likewise, there's also a hadith. And subhanAllah, look at the magnitude of this hadith, subhanAllah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, afdalul khalq, the best of all creation. He went once to Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiyallahu anhu. Umar ibn al-Khattab, regarding him, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that if there was to be a prophet after me, it would have been you, Ya Umar. Meaning, if there was going to be another prophet after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it would have been Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiyallahu anhu. So that sense of righteousness and understanding is all there already. He's the second best to walk upon the earth after the Anbiya. The second best to walk upon the earth after the Anbiya, and the second most beloved to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What does the Prophet tell him to do? Oh, one day later on in life, you're going to come across a man. And he also mentioned the name, but it's lost from my mind at the moment. And he said, when you see this man, tell him to make dua for you. Not the other way around. Doesn't matter if you are beloved to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Doesn't matter if you are Khalifa now. No, you go to that man and you tell that man to make dua for you because his duas are never rejected. Why is that? Because he was always good to his parents. He was always good to his parents. So as a reward, this is a reward for all of us. If you and I can be good to our parents, then every single dua you ever make in your life, you will see it accepted. You will see Allah responding to you all the time. And not delayed, immediately also. That is one of the direct results of birrul walidain. And one of the direct results of uququl walidain, of disrespect, is Allah, He humiliates you in this life as well as the next. One of the sins that you will have to taste the consequences for is uququl walidain, disrespect, abusiveness towards our parents. Again, may Allah protect us and grant us only good understanding. People will say, okay, but in this day and age, we have parents, they can also be abusive towards their children. Yes, but in Islam, that does not give you an excuse to cut off the relationship. You may have to distance yourself a little bit. Maybe if the relationship is becoming toxic, yes, distance yourself, but you still have to do what Allah commanded you to do. You still have to use good words with them. You still have to lower yourself in humility towards them. You still have to serve them. It doesn't matter how they treat you. Because Allah is not going to ask you how they treated you. Allah is going to ask you how you treated them. May Allah grant us all a good understanding yet again. The next point that we're going to go over is regarding sajdah and dua. And subhanAllah, this is an amazing, amazing ayah. Allah, He says in Surah Hajj, أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَسْجُدُ لَهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ والشمس والقمر والنجوم والجبال والشجر والدواب وكثير من الناس وكثير حق عليه العذاب ومن يهن الله فما له من مكرم إن الله يفعل ما يشاء. Subhanallah. Do you not see? Alam tara anna Allah yasjudu lahu man fis samawati wa man fil ard. That do you not see that to Allah, everyone on the heavens and the earth, they are prostrating to Allah. Wash-shams wal-qamar. And also the sun, it prostrates to Allah in a way that we cannot understand. And also the moon, it does sajdah to Allah. Wan-nujum, and the stars. Wal-jibal, even the mountains. Wash-shajar, and the trees. They all do sujood to Allah. Wad-dawab, and the moving creatures, the beasts, the four-legged beasts. وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنَ النَّاسِ. And even many of mankind, if you look at the Muslims. And then also from many of the people, حَقَّ عَلَيْهِ الْعَذَابِ. The justification for punishment has fallen upon them. But even these people, these disbelievers, look at their shadows. Their shadows are worshipping Allah. Their shadows are glorifying Allah, are praising Allah, are worshipping Allah, are doing sujood to Allah in a way that you and I cannot understand. It doesn't matter if they do not do. It doesn't matter if you do or you do not do. Everything is still always prostrating to Allah. And subhanAllah, Allah, He says, وَمَن يُهِنِ اللَّهِ. The one who Allah humiliates, فَمَا لَهُ مِن مُكْرِمٍ. Then none can give him any honor. None can bestow honor upon that person. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَفْعَلُ مَا يَشَاءُ. Indeed, Allah, He does whatever He wills and nobody will hold Him accountable. If Allah chooses to send a person astray, and He's the only one who has the power to do so, لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. That Allah is the one who chooses and destines a person to go astray. Allah says, if you have a problem, then just hear this. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَفْعَلُ مَا يَشَاءُ. Allah, He does whatever He wants. Who can challenge Him? Who can question Him? Nobody. Likewise, if Allah honors you, then none can humiliate you. If Allah raises you in honor, then none can bring you down. And this ayah, if you look at it, the word mukrim, a bestower of honor or to be honored, it is directly related to yasjudullah, to prostrating to Him. That when you go into sujood, you are in the most honorable position you could ever be in. The most honorable position in the sight of Allah for you is when you are in sujood to Him. The lowest of the low. The most honorable part of your face, of your body, the face, is on the ground for Allah. Likewise, that which Allah honored you for, the aql, the intellect, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, because of the intellect, even that is on the floor. Even that is on the ground as you are prostrating to Allah. And so, again, we see the connection of jalala and karam in this. That you lower yourself in humility, in sujood to Allah. And as a reward, He elevates your status. And subhanAllah, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that whoever humbles himself by 1 degree for Allah, that Allah will raise him by 1 degree. Whoever is arrogant by Allah or to Allah by 1 degree, then Allah will lower him up until he becomes the lowest of the low. And the first way we humble ourselves to Allah is in ruku' and in sujood, and also in accepting the ayat of Allah and the commands of Allah. Again, may Allah grant us all a good understanding. Thawban, he reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that you must perform many prostrations to Allah. For you do not prostrate to Allah except that Allah will raise you a degree for it and He will erase a sin for it. So every single time you go into sujood, Allah, He elevates your status and He wipes away your sins. But that does not mean that you just increase the quantity of your sajdas. Rather, it's about the quality as well as the quantity. In the next narration is mentioned that Buraidah, he reports that one day I went out to fulfill a need, and there was the Prophet ﷺ walking before me. And so he took my hand. And just, again, it's never enough to just hear about it. Put yourself in the situation. Imagine you're walking, and in front of you is Rasulullah ﷺ. And then he stops for you and he takes your hand, and now you're walking together. You're walking with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then you come across a man who's offering salah, and he's performing many ruku' and many sajdas, many, just one by one, quickly. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself says, do you think he is showing off? The Prophet of Allah is linking riya to speeding in salah. That's a dangerous thing. So I said, Allah and His Messenger knows best. And then Rasulullah ﷺ, he let go of my hand, and then he put his hands together, directing them upwards, and say, you must take the way of moderation. You must take the way of moderation. You must take the way of moderation. For whoever is severe in this deen, then he will be overwhelmed. Whoever becomes extreme or severe in this deen, then he will become overwhelmed. So from this we learn that yes, we have to do many prostrations. The more you do, the closer you become to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it is in the quality. It is in how much quality you put in that sujood that you're in. How long you stay in that sujood. How connected and close do you feel with Allah? Is your mind all over the place? Is your heart all over the place? Or are you in the presence over there? And all you can think about is Allah. And you've lowered yourself completely before Allah, as it should be. And then you know that at this point, you are completely powerless, and you have submitted wholeheartedly and completely to Allah. And at that point, you are making dua. Allahu Akbar. So it's also narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that if he received any good news, or if he heard something pleasing, he would fall down into prostration to Allah. This is known as Sajdah to Shukr. And this is something, it's a sunnah. It is a forgotten sunnah rather. And we have to revive it. That whenever we hear good news, or we hear that perhaps one of the du'as you made, it was responded to, or you were just relieved of a difficulty, then go straight into sujood. Now some people, they say the salah to shukr, or just to go straight into sujood. Now the more authentic one, or the stronger opinion is that you go straight into sujood. Then you don't have to offer something called salah to shukr, because every single salah is a salah to shukr, because you begin by saying Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. But let's say if something amazing happens all of a sudden, just go straight into sujood, as long as you're facing the qibla. You don't have to do takbir or anything. You just fall straight into sujood and you thank Allah for it. And then you get up and you go about your business. Allahu Akbar. That is actually a sunnah. It is also reported that Ali radiallahu anh, he said that the most beloved word to Allah Almighty is the one who whilst he is in sujood, he says, Rabbi inni zalamtu nafsi. Oh my Lord, indeed I have wronged myself. Rabbi ighfirli, or forgive me, faghfirli fa innahu la yaghfiru dhunuba illa ant. Forgive me because none forgives sins other than you. This is the most beloved. That when you ask Allah to forgive you in the position of sujood, that is what is most beloved to Allah. Likewise, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam further says that laysa shay'un akrama ala Allah min du'a. That nothing is more akram, honorable in the sight of Allah, nothing is more precious to Allah, nothing is more valuable to Allah other than dua. Dua is the best of your deeds. And that links now to taqwa, because inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Allah said that the best of you in the sight of Allah is the one who has taqwa. So a sign of taqwa is when you start increasing in dua. And this is a sign of the friends of Allah, it's mentioned, is that no matter what they do, even if they don't have time to do extra salah or recite more Quran, maybe they're just walking, the one thing that they don't stop doing is dua. They may just be walking on the streets and they're just talking to Allah. Instead of just talking to themselves, sometimes maybe you'll see a car drive past, maybe it's speeding a little bit. And then usually as people be like look at this person, why is he speeding for? He should slow down. No, the friends of Allah, they are speaking to Allah about this. Ya Rabb, look what he just did. Something like that. But they are always thinking about Allah. They are always speaking and they always have this close bond with Allah. Maybe they're just thinking about things, but not alone. They are always connected with Allah. Maybe you're alone in your room and you're just doing tafakkur of the Quran. And then you come to some i'tidar, some realization. That, the ayat of Allah, the Quran, it made you realize something amazing. And you're not just saying, wow, alhamdulillah, subhanallah, but you're speaking to Allah about this. Ya Rabb, lakal hamd, thank you for showing this to me. This is amazing. So it's like the believer and the friends of Allah, they are never alone. Because they always realize that Allah is with them. And so they take that seriously. That no matter what they do, they are doing it in the company of Allah. Think about it. Everything you do, what would it be like to be in the company of Allah? Because in Jannah is for those who likes His company. Which is why you're always going to be in the presence of Allah. Always in Jannah. And so for those who are eager for that, they start practicing from now. May Allah grant us all a good understanding. Now, it's been 37 minutes and we've only gone halfway through our slides this week. But then again, the side of karam, there's always so much more to say. We've got one more hadith regarding sajdah, so let's go over that. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that surely I have been prohibited from reciting the Quran in ruku' and in sajdah. So we are not allowed to recite the Quran in ruku' and in sajdah. So the people, they ask a question. Okay, in ruku' we know that. But what about in sajdah when we want to make dua and the du'as in the Quran? رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً. Are we reciting the Quran or are we making a dua? That is a specific dua. You can say that in sujood. Rather, you should say it in sujood. The du'as that are listed in the Quran, you should be saying it in sujood. So as for the ruku', then extol the greatness of the Lord in it. As for the sujood, strive in dua, because it is fitting that your dua is answered. In another narration, la yurad, it is not sent back. You make a dua in sujood, it is not sent back. It will not be sent back to you. Simple. You want acceptance, you want response, you want to be close to Allah. By the way, the very first thing we should always be asking Allah is to be close to Him. Because that's the first reason why we do dua. If you look at the two names of Allah, Al-Qareeb, Al-Mujib, which one came first? Al-Qareeb, the one who is close, and then Al-Mujib, the one who responds. Therefore, we understand from this that the reason why you make dua is not because you want something from Allah. That's the second thing. The first thing you want is Allah Himself, that you want to be close to Allah. Yes, you know that Allah is always close to you. You know that Allah is always close to you. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. Allah is always close to you, but you want to be close to Allah. That's the side that we should be focusing on. And we'll keep it over there for today. We'll continue next week. We've still got quite a few ahadith to go over. May Allah grant us all a good understanding. May Allah grant us all the ability to live by this name of His Dhul Jalali Wal Ikraam. Allahumma ja'al khayra a'malina akhirah wa khayra a'malina khawatimah wa ja'al khayra ayyamana yawma nalqaak. اللهم ارزقنا حبك وحب من ينفعنا حبه عندك. اللهم ما رزقتنا مما نحب فاجعله فراغا لنا فيما تحب. اللهم وما زويت عنا مما نحب فاجعله فراغا لنا فيما تحب. اللهم زدنا ولا تنقصنا وأكرمنا ولا تهنا وأعطنا ولا تحرمنا وآرثنا ولا تؤثر علينا وارضنا وارض عنا. اللهم إنا نسألك الثبات في الأمر والعزيمة على الرشد ونسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك ونسألك شكر نعمتك وحسن عبادتك ونسألك قلبا سليما ولسانا صادقا ونسألك من خير ما تعلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما تعلم ونستغفرك لما تعلم إنك أنت علام الغيوب. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وارزقنا علما تنفعنا به وصلى الله على نبينا محمد. أقول قولي هذا سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.